Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be using the distance formula to find the distance between these points. Previously we had a video where we actually derived the formula. So again, what was the formula? We said d, the distance between 2 points, okay, is the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared, where x1 and y1 are the x and y components of the first point respectively, and x2 and y2 are the components of the second point. All right, so in this example we can see we have 3 points. So a is -2, -3, and b is 3 and 0, and then c, the point c, is -2 and 5. Okay, so part 1 says, or the general thing it says, find the distance between a and b. Okay, so first we're going to be doing a and b. All right, so for that we're going to say again the distance, okay, is equal to, so just write everything down the same way. Okay, and then you're just left with figuring out which one is x1, which one is x2, which one is y1, and so on. So it's between a1 and it's between a and b. Okay, so this is a, right? So here we can say the x component for a is -2. Okay, so we can write x1 is for a. Okay, so we're gonna be writing -2 here. Okay, and the rule, it has a negative itself, so I'm gonna use red so that you don't get confused. All right, what about x2? X2 is the x component of b, because we're finding the distance between a and b. Okay, so the x component of b is just 3. Okay, so like that. Afterwards, we have y1 minus y2. Again, y1 is the y component of a. Okay, so it's -3. So here we're gonna write -3. Again, we should always remember the rule, it has a negative. Okay, so I'm gonna use red for that. And then the y2, which is the y component for the second point, which is b, okay, is just 0. Okay, so now we can just calculate. Okay, so the square root of, okay, so -2, -3 is just -5, okay? And then we have the power of 2, plus -3 minus 0 is just -3 to the power of 2, okay? So -5 to the power of 2, anything to the power of 2 is positive. 5 to the power of 2 is 25, okay? Don't forget about the square root. And then -3 to the power of 2 is just 9, okay? All right, so 25 plus 9 is 34. So basically that's square root of 34. You don't need to approximate this number. You can just leave it like this, okay? So the first distance was the square root of 34. Okay, so the same thing for B and C. So the distance is equal to, we're gonna be doing it quicker this time. Okay, again, don't forget about the minus signs. Okay, so this time it's B, okay, it's B and C, all right? So we're gonna be jumping into B. So x1 for B is what? It's 3, okay? And then x2, which is the x component for C, is what? It's -2, okay? So, sorry, it's here, okay? Right, when you see two minuses together, just put a bracket. Okay, and now y1, which is the first, y1 is 0, okay, because B is the first point. And then y2 is just 5, okay, so like this, right? So this becomes what? We have 3, negative, becomes a positive 2 to the power of 2, okay? And then plus, this is just -5 to the power of 2. Okay, so this is equal to Again, 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So negative 5 again, the square root of that is 25. So this is the square root of 50, okay? Or it can be simplified into 2 times the square root of 15, even though this is not necessary. Okay, so you can leave it like this. All right. So actually, you can say the square root of 12 and a half. All right. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So the last one, okay, for A and C. So D is equal to the square root of, we're gonna have 2 brackets and then all squared. And then we don't forget about the minus signs. Okay, so now A and C. Okay, so x1 for A, it's what? It's negative 2. Okay, so x for C is, again, surprisingly, negative 2. Okay, so negative 2 is x1, negative 2 is also x2. All right, and then y1 for A, it's negative 3. Okay, and then y2, which is for C, is just 5. Okay, so let's just calculate. So this is negative 2, that's negative 2, so this becomes plus 2. So 2 minus 2, obviously 0 squared, okay? So this all reduces into 0. And then we have negative 3, negative 5. Obviously this is negative 8 squared, okay? So this is 0 squared is 0. 8 squared is 64, okay? So 64. So it's the square root of 64. And again, we know 8 times 8 is 64. So it's just 8. Okay, so we found the distance between the 3 points. So we can do this also. So we said the distance between A and B is the square root of 34. So this thing is approximately, okay, maybe 5.8, the distance. And then for the second part, which was between B and C, so this was, we said it's approximately 2 times the square root of this. So this could be like maybe nearly 6. We don't really care about that, but this is the length of this. And then between A and C, this we can also decide using our eyes. Okay, this is 8 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the distance here is 8, as we found.